And I think it's live. Okay, we are
We're
live.
live.
Hello, everyone. It is Sunday, September 15th. Welcome back to Cos Talk Live. Today, we're talking about how we got started in cosplay, how you can get into started in cosplay, the benefits that you have if you're getting started now versus when we started, versus when Jinx started before even me, and just kind of some tips and tricks, shopping, crafting, what to do for your first con, what to do for your first contest, what to do if you're traveling for the first time, just stuff to go over that if you've only cosplayed casually and you're trying to get more involved in maybe communities or charities or groups, what to look out for and what to be aware of.
Yeah, so I am Jinx Cosplay. As Thermo said, I have been cosplaying for a long time. I started in 2001, so that is about 23 years now. Yeah, back then we barely had any resources, so I'll talk about it as we go. I think it's great now that there's tons of resources, and it's so easy to get into cosplay. And yeah, my first con was San Diego Comic Con 1996, where I saw not cosplayers, but we called them booth babes. Like, there's hired models to wear costumes that weren't necessarily like familiar with the content that they were promoting. There's a lot less of those now. Now I've seen them hire actual cosplayers to do this stuff. So really cool the way it's evolved. So that's me. Hi.
Yeah. And I'm Thermal, and I started costuming in 2014. And now I'm more back into doing tutorials and educational content and helping out charities because that's kind of what I like to focus on. And cosplay has an application in multiple areas. So, like, I like to do tutorials, educational. I like to do workshops, and I like to go do pro bono work at libraries and help people who are underprivileged that may not get a chance to use some of these materials because they're so expensive. So that's the stuff that I like to do. But there's all different avenues you can take as a costumer or cosplayer. Cosplay itself is defined as costumed play. So if you are a cosplayer, chances are you're looking more at the performative aspect of things. However, cosplay has kind of expanded out and assimilated things that were just traditionally costuming or crafting. And so it's kind of a broad term now. It used to be very limited and now it's much more broad. But costuming started at the World's Fair in the 1940s, and it has since then evolved. And it was in the 90s that I believe the late 90s or very early 2000s that the term cosplay was coined, after a Japanese artist came to America and witnessed people like using costuming as a performative aspect more than just
It was
a crafting aspect.
70s actually. I think he coined it in the 70s, and
I thought it was coined in the 90s.
it didn't pick up popularity till the 90s.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe
you
the
might be right.
90s.
Yeah. But definitely, like, people think that it started in Japan, which there's no specific
It was
place where it
1983. It was 1983. So it
we
was
were like,
early 80s, but it didn't pick up speed until the early 90s.
yeah, so people think that it originated in Japan. I mean, there really is no specific place, like there's no pinpoint. It's kind of
The
a
first
collaborative effort.
costumed person that was a performer was in the 1939 World's Fair.
Yes, so that was they dressed up as like generic sci-fi characters, but that was the first instance that somebody wore a costume specifically to promote their fandom at a fandom event. The Japanese definitely took it and ran with it. They had lots of source material. Lots of the anime was very, very popular even back then in the 70s and 80s. The anime Lum Urasei Yatsura, which is made by the same person as Ranma One Half and Inuyasha, was very popular to cosplay because she was just a tiger bikini and green hair. So she helped also popularize cosplay. The character did, Lum, not the manga writer, but the manga writer did. So that's kind of where it like really picked up steam. The Japanese definitely took it and embraced it, and then it gained popularity again throughout the world.
Yep. And the one thing that for those just starting in cosplay to think about is if you are a costumer or a cosplayer, if you don't know how to craft, that's okay. A lot of people too, they'll try to go and buy costumes, but I actually highly recommend that you go to a thrift store or a consignment store and you purchase clothing that you can modify and tailor or adjust and mess with and style, because learning how to style things and figuring out what fits your body type best is most important. A lot of these pre-made costumes are made to just one specific body type. And so until you figure out what looks good on you, if you look good in cupcake skirts or in circle skirts, or if you look better in pleated pants for guys, or form fitted, until you figure out what you're most comfortable in, I don't recommend actually buying pre-made costumes, because you could waste a lot of money that way. And a lot of the times they're starting to really crack down on the ability to even return them. So there's actually a really big cosplay market for used or unused costumes right now, for people who are like, hey, this didn't fit me, I can't return it, I want to trade with somebody else, or maybe I want to sell this and buy something else from someone. So I recommend instead going to thrift stores and consignment stores and finding what types of clothing and styles fit you best, that you're most comfortable with. And I say this because some people won't know what they're uncomfortable with until they try it. I mean, there were certain things I didn't realize I was uncomfortable with until I put a costume on, looked at it, and was like, I spent $120 and I hate this. And it was just because I didn't know that specific style of clothing would make me uncomfortable. So that's where I recommend doing first, just to figure out, okay, well, if I want to be this character, then maybe I don't go with their traditional outfit. Maybe instead I put something together, pieces together that resembles them, that has their hair color, that has the color of their clothing, that has that general style, but isn't exactly the specific design, because sometimes that doesn't work, and that's okay.
Just want to say, Matthew says, shout out to Age of Radio. Age of Radio is our sponsor. And hi, ladies, long time no see. Great show topic. So he's referring to our D&D session we had on Friday, where Thermo is our dungeon master. Thermo helped me yesterday make a character gender bend costume, modify a vest for a uniform because I'm larger than standard Asian sizing. Big help, not to mention thought of issues I have with clothing, such as overheating, so having a vest modified instead of a full jacket.
That's a good point too. Your body temperature can be affected by a lot of the pre-made costumes are made with just 100% polyester. Polyester gets really, really hot or really, really cold depending on your environment. So that's also a good point of, learning how to design and style using thrifted clothing before you start settling down and getting into costumes that may be more ornate.
Yeah, and companies that make costumes now, we know that are primarily in Asia, right? When they first started, they did have very weird sizing. They're getting better at it, although there's still some that aren't adjusted to Western sizes. I think the first time I bought a costume, it was Evelyn from KDA Pop Stars, and I bought a large, where in the Western world I wear a small. And even I think it was a large or an extra large. So really important to look at the actual measurements. A lot of companies are better now. I think like Pro Cosplay has adapted their sizes.
Well, Pro Cosplay too, they have 2 different size charts, and they'll tell you which one they recommend depending on what part of the world you're in.
So definitely, if you can't find measurements on the website, like avoid it, because you don't want to be disappointed when it shows up like.
That's a good thing too that you just mentioned, measurements. Most people don't actually know their measurements. So if you're not familiar with your measurements, find either a local seamstress or even just go into a local tuxedo shop, whether you're male or female. They will do measurements for free or for like 10 to 15 bucks. And then you'll have your measurements and you'll know exactly what you should be able to purchase. And if it's in inches, there are inches to centimeter conversions that you can find.
Yes, get them in both, because while some companies, like I said, are now being more like Western friendly, there's still some that aren't. And centimeters are more accurate. Like, let's be real. So they definitely would be more helpful to have it in centimeters.
Honestly, if it's in inches, I always go like almost a size up, because inches, there's just a little too much wiggle room.
Yeah, I mean, you have like, down to like a 1/16 of an inch, which gets confusing. So if it says it fits, a 76, and you're 76 and a half, I probably wouldn't risk it. Unless it's something that you can alter.
Like, or it's stretchy. Like if it's stretchy, you'd probably be okay.
Yeah. So
and that's one thing too, getting familiar with like materials, like types of fabric, right?
Absolutely.
Even if you're not a crafter, you should get familiar with kinds of fabrics that you're comfortable with, or even find out what you're allergic to. Like, I didn't realize that there are a lot of costumes that are actually made out of wool, and I'm horribly allergic to wool.
Definitely. A lot of times when it says like it's acrylic fabric, that usually means like polyester or acetate, which a lot of even like the cheapy Halloween costumes are made out of. So pay attention to that as well. The higher end quality costumes will use things more like cotton, maybe linens, uh, you know, like pleathers and vinyls. But most of the cheaper stuff is almost always just made out of polyester. Polyester sometimes stretches. If we're looking at like bodysuits will stretch, like Zentai suits and the bodysuits. So you're
But
pretty
that's
safe
because
on
they're gonna
the
have a
mesh.
polyester rayon in them. It's the rayon itself that's stretching and not necessarily the polyester.
Yeah. So rayon, lycra, spandex, those are going to be stretching materials. You'll be safer with those. Anything with like a defined waist, though, I would say be careful. You might need your exact measurements. Anything with that you see with panels or anything like that.
With
Exact.
darting or like straight lines, yeah, you'll need to make sure that you are, even if it's a little loose in your waist or other areas, you want to size up just to make sure it fits you in those places where if you sit down and it pulls too hard, it will split because polyester isn't the strongest fabric. So that's why you don't want to play games with it. If you have to go a little bit bigger and then maybe like wear a belt or to put some safety pins in the waist or the chest somewhere, that's probably smarter because again, it's an inexpensive material. It comes in a bunch of different colors, which is why it's used, but it's not flexible. It is
Hmm.
very much this is the size I am, and if you go over it all, you bust out of it. And I have like larger biceps, which is why most of my shirts and stuff have like a flexible sleeve because I have actually legitimately busted out of sleeves 3 times now. So, and my shoulders have busted out once.
Actually, sorry, I'm getting snacks off screen, but some cosplay sellers will do both a costume in both a male and a female version.
I get the male
Um,
version.
yeah, so that's actually really helpful for if you want to do a gender bend or if you just need something that has
If you're
different
just
measurements.
taller,
Mm,
because
yeah,
the average female costume is usually only made for someone between 5'4" and 5'6", and I am 5'10". So
yeah. So look into that and see if they offer that. Like, I buy a lot from AliExpress, so there's a couple of sellers on there that will do like both. There's some cosplay sellers that will do custom sizing, which you need to make sure that you have your right sizes. Again, with your measurements, to get it by someone that knows how to do it, or go get it at a tailor's place. Um, Also, when we talked about secondhand cosplay buying, this is something that I've been doing a lot lately. It's I make my costumes, right? Like that's how I've been doing it, but I like to have some that I just can throw on, right? And I want to save some money while I do it. So I've been using Depop a lot. If you don't know what Depop is, Depop is an app. Oh, it's this one. This is a website that does it specifically too. I think this is what's the name of this website?
this is Lumika Cosplay Resell, and
Yeah,
it's kind of a global marketplace, but I can open Depop as well.
yeah.
But yeah, I like Lumika. I'll post this as a comment so everybody can find it. Let me open
Yeah,
Depop too.
there's like a couple other there's another website too that does it. But so Depop, I started looking on Poshmark. Poshmark is a resale app that first focused on like more like designer clothing, but now it's kind of expanded. I've sold a couple of costumes on there. I sold like my Jasmine costume, but I don't really shop for costumes on there. But Depop, I think, originated in the UK, I think. And they're the same type of app that Poshmark is, although the audience is a little more subculture, is a little more younger. It's the shipping fees are completely different, as Poshmark has like one shipping fee. And I find more cosplays on here. I've bought the Yumiko cosplay from Kakegurui. I've bought my Hero Academia school uniform. I bought one of those. I bought my Chun-Li from Street Fighter V, which needed some repairs, which is fine. For the price that I pay, I'm willing to do repairs on stuff. Now their search function is not that great, as you
You have
can
to be
see.
you have to be very specific.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to navigate. I don't know why, like their search functions are not fantastic, but you can put brands in there, and as long as people have labeled them right, you'll be able to find stuff. Meat Costumes as well is a brand that shows up. Um, And the nice thing about buying cosplays from uh, from websites like Doki Doki, like secondhand, is you can go back to the website if they still have it listed and get the actual information there.
Yeah, and this is good too because if for some reason like this is like you really want that listing but they don't have it in your size, you just go back and you're like, "Okay, well, I liked how this looked. They had pictures of it on. It looks like it was fitting really well. Well, I'm gonna have to buy it from the site." And so like, yeah, that's very useful. Also, I kind of like prefer going to like Depop or Lumica or even Facebook Marketplace and getting the cosplay sales Facebook's groups because we're upcycling and recycling and reusing, right? And we're not putting more trash in landfills and stuff like that. And plus, the great thing is a lot of the times when people are selling that, they'll tell you, "Hey, this part of the costume doesn't fit right," so you get like a real preview of how comfortable uncomfortable it is from the previous owner.
Baby Bug Cosplay says hi from Twitch. Hope you both are doing well. We're doing really nice. But yeah, secondhand cosplay is a great way to start. Like I said, just buy a school uniform character that's easy to wear if you're kind of like just dipping your toes in. Secondhand cosplays are usually not as run down as like regular clothes are because people aren't wearing them as often. And
Yeah, they tend to so they won't be as cheap as some like thrift items because they've probably only been worn once or twice. And I always ask for in advance. I always ask when I order a used costume, I always ask for complete photos of that day, and I want pictures of the pits, the armpits. I know that sounds weird, but the armpits, and if it's a bodysuit, I like to see what the bottom of that, like the genital area of the bodysuit is, because if it's got staining or dirt, I will probably still purchase it. I will just cut those areas out and fix them. But if you're not familiar with sewing or fixing and you don't want to pay the extra, at least you know, okay, do I want to handle the staining or do I need to move on to a different seller?
yeah, and I've also found and sold like my handmade costumes there. That's the most Depop is the most successful I've had with selling costumes that I've made. And it's so hard for me to sell costumes that I've made because I'm like so critical of myself, and I've gotten good feedback. And I think people are aware of that too when they're buying made stuff, that they're specifically looking for it, right? So they kind of know what to expect. Another website, the one that I used, I haven't gotten much traction on it yet, but it's Coscove. I'm putting the link in the chat. So that's another website. I think Lumica and Coscove are the two websites right now that are actively doing like secondhand cosplay sales. Again, like Thermo said, like you'll find them on Facebook Marketplace. There's also Facebook groups. I don't know if they're as effective anymore because they get so
The
big.
groups, yeah, the groups, like, they don't let the groups sell anymore. All of it has to go through the marketplace. So the marketplace is a lot more successful. And in I've been on some of the cosplay sell groups, but it's connected directly to the marketplace. Um, those ones that actually connect directly are really good. Just understand that if you're buying anything from Facebook, do not click purchase through the Facebook link. You'll need to message whoever the seller is, because they may already have someone purchasing it. It is one kind of those things where it's like, hey, it's like a Craigslist but on Facebook, where like, hey, I'd like to buy this. Is it still available? And they'll let you know. Plus, shipping varies for location. Facebook's shipping does not let you set things correctly,
Yeah,
so
it's weird.
sometimes it'll be way too much shipping or way too little. It's weird. Its auto locator is dumb. And so that's why I would recommend, if you're buying from Facebook Message. Plus, the benefit of messaging is that you can get more pictures. You can get exact measurements. If they've only set a size large or extra large, you can ask for more details. But I've had a lot of success with Facebook, both purchasing and selling. My handmade ones go crazy on Facebook. But
Yeah,
that's just because I have a lot of the ones that I'm selling are like, hey, you know what? I wore this like 3 times and I've competed in it twice and I'm done. Like, I'm done. So,
yeah, my handmade ones get a lot of attention as well. I mean, they're obviously priced a lot more, but I do kind of come to terms with it. Like, okay, I've gotten what I wanted out of it, and sometimes I'll drop the price a little bit. We
and
do have a
we've got a
question.
question from Kevin.
Yeah.
What's the single biggest aspect of cosplay you have learned not to do?
Ooh, I have it. Um, don't well a to do is budget properly, because my do not do was buy something, it didn't work, buy something else, it didn't work. Now this was really early in my cosplay career when I was buying materials. I just kind of went impulsive, and then I ended up spending more than I really should have on a costume. So budget, research your materials. You can even like test your materials first, like get a sample of it, and then and it's a lot more time consuming, but in the end, like you'll spend way less money and you'll be less stressed.
Yeah,
So
and
my
that was for the question again, just so people can see it. That was actually going to be my first answer, but my second answer would be don't plan your cosplays before a convention unless they're already made. Do not say, I'm going to wear this costume to this convention unless you have it made or it has arrived and you've tried it on. I've seen so many people get devastated that they can't wear certain costumes to a convention because they ran into problems they didn't anticipate. So only do it when you've had a chance to fully test it out. In general, I don't actually recommend planning unless you've got groups that you're going with. If you're just going solo to a convention, see how you feel that day. If you're local and you're not traveling, because sometimes the temperature and the weather will really mess up what your plans are, and you have to deviate. You have to change plans.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people really, really, really like put a lot of stock into like their cosplay lineups and then get disappointed, or their friends will I mean, it doesn't matter if your friends get disappointed because it's all about you, not them. But if you have high expectations for yourself, like I do, like I sometimes don't put my lineup until like the day before. Just because I'm like, I still don't know what I'm gonna wear. So
Yeah, I've started to
really,
move to that too because I've hit so many times now where like sometimes I've had issues with my health recently, and sometimes I'm like, I can no, I can wear this, but this means I will not last the whole day. And I would rather wear something that I know I'm going to last the whole day in, or hey, I know that I'm going to be doing 5 panels on this day. I'm going to be sitting a lot. I can wear that crazy costume. Or hey, I know I'm going to be on my feet for 10 hours today because I'm helping with this event and this event and this event. So maybe I should wear something that allows me to move more comfortably. So pay attention to the shoes you're wearing and pay attention to the weight of the costume because the weight of the costume will burden you a lot more than you think.
and have a backup, like a backup easy cosplay, because
Keep it
oftentimes
in your
by
car or a locker
yeah,
or something.
yeah, like oftentimes by the last day, you're like, wow, I really can't. Like, I want to go in cosplay, but I just can't wear this big armor piece that I planned. So like I feel weird when I'm not in cosplay in an event, so I always do have a backup cosplay that's more comfortable. A couple more comments. Baby Bug says Facebook's great for handmade things and commissions. Yes, so if you're not making your own, or you want to get started in it and you can afford to have a commission, that is a great way to find people to make stuff. Kevin, I've made that mistake as well. I think you were referring to overspending. I think that's when that comment came up. So yeah, so a couple of these tips to help you get started in cosplay. If you want to make it yourself completely, I'm going to assume that you already know how to sew. Because if you don't, you're going to have to learn how to sew first. So don't plan to make it for, I'm going to make it for a an event next month, and I'm going to learn how to sew in a month.
I mean, I can go over a story of what happened to me because I did that like the first time I ever wanted to cosplay. I decided I'm gonna make this costume, and I'd never made boob cuffs before, and I made several iterations of them. Then I wound up with like a much larger version of it, and
Oh,
I had never worked with Warbler before, and I'd never worked with leather before, and there were so many firsts. And I also realized I made these beautiful leg guards, and realized I couldn't actually tolerate wearing them. So then I had to, a few days before the convention, make another set of leg guards. And the original pants that I made ended up not being able to handle the grommets and they tore. So then I had to that day just run to a Walmart and get different pants. And it was this is me bending over, like there's a picture of me bending over here. That's because we realized the pants were actually see-through. So there were a lot of things that I didn't know, and it was because I was trying to rush and do something that I had absolutely no experience with. So give yourself time.
yes,
Give
give
yourself time.
yourself time. Find your resources. If you want to learn to sew, either find classes or someone that can help you learn how to sew. Give yourself that time to do it. You don't have to sew your first costume. That's not necessary at all. I have actually here. I'm going to share this. When I made my Black Cat Diva, I did a combination of sewing and, oh gosh, where are you? A combination of sewing and purchasing. Um, so this is a combination. I have a whole how-to, so you're welcome to come take a look at this. I even included links, although some of the links are probably old. Um, but actually, this is not my how-to. Where's my how-to? Sorry, I'm gonna go on to my how-to. Okay. I thought I had this set up, but I didn't. Whoops. No. Okay. We're gonna go back to video game cosplay. We're gonna go back. Okay, let me unshare this while I figure it out. Um, but yeah, I was inspired first because I owned a pair of Yaya Han's cat ears. And I thought black and pink. I'm like, oh my God, these are perfect. So I actually got the idea to do it. Here it is. Starting with one accessory. And because I do things last minute, which I don't condone, I was like, the skin came out on Tuesday, and I wanted to wear it that following Saturday. So I had Amazon Prime, so that's where you'll have to understand things come in very quickly. If you don't have Amazon Prime, this method might not work. But here you can see I ordered a wig. I actually had 2 different wigs that I tried, so that's that's going to cost you a little money depending on the speed that you go at. But I made the skirt and the top, but a lot of the other stuff I purchased. I purchased like the gloves here. I purchased the petticoat and the accessories that I made. The shoes were purchased. The stockings were purchased. So you don't have to make everything. You could probably even find like a black skirt and a blouse, and then just stamp it if you want, or not stamp it. Sometimes those details don't always matter. But that is a great way to do both purchase and make it. I'll throw this link in the chat in case you guys are curious. So Baby Bug Cosplay says, do you have any recommendations of what to include on a cosplay website? I'm not sure I understand the context of that question unless you got it, Thermo. You mean like when you're selling?
I think building your website. So I have a website. If we're talking about website, so let me open up my website and I can show you what to include on your website and make recommendations. So let me do that real fast. And I will tell you, if you've never built a website before, just make sure that the most important information's on that first page about yourself. Because some people will just put all of this pictures and all these things, and it ends up being difficult for someone to figure out like who you are and like what your purpose is as a cosplayer. This is my website. So I like to do like a nice image, but I have the portfolio, events, and tutorials along with like a convention safety or a support us or a contact area. And initially starting out, I would just recommend doing a portfolio and events that you're attending. Just do 3 things because keeping a website updated is a lot of work. And in the beginning, have like your about area. Sorry, my phone. Have your about area. And then also, even though you have this menu up here, have another menu with your portfolio, your events, tutorials, whatever else in the middle. Because as people are scrolling, they may or may not miss things. Plus, different devices will present different things. And then you'll have an impressum. So if you haven't done a whole lot yet, first, don't include this impressum yet. Instead, do what's called a cosplay media kit and have a kit of the costumes you've made, your best costumes, just some pictures in the front, along with any accolades or awards that you've won. And then you can also include your social media. I will say that a lot of conventions are starting to slowly but surely move away from social media as an identifier, because they're realizing that cosplay is a big thing. So they are looking more at what do you do specifically that impress them. And then they're looking at social media afterwards. But for portfolio, keep it simple. Keep it to only what's currently in your closet, right? So what you currently wear, what you most frequently wear. And then sometimes you can put some old memories like that, sort of like, these are my favorite from the past that I no longer wear or have retired for a number of reasons. But the big thing is mostly information about yourself to impress whoever's looking at your site, your portfolio, and the special events that you're attending.
So, well, I want to share mine too. So I did something a little bit different, but mine takes a lot more work because I have tons of sub pages. So you can make a very simple website. It doesn't have to be incredibly like detailed and fancy. But I spent a little more time, and I'm actually redoing my website, so that's why I have some gaps here. But same as like Thermo has, I have my little intro video, a little about. Ignore this blank space, and this needs to be updated. But mine's kind of more of like highlights that will take you to another page, but that takes a lot more work. And then I have tons of sub pages, but that's just me. That's just how I wanted to do it. The way Thermo does is a great like quick snapshot. And especially while we're talking about setting up your website, let's talk about like your branding. I know it sounds weird to be like, I've never cosplayed before, why would I have a brand? I mean, you never know what you're going to do with cosplay. Before I go into this, let's look at a couple comments. Baby Bug, that's good to know. Kevin says, I learned to build a website in college about 100 years ago, thinking things have changed. I don't think they've changed that much, really. I mean, they just have made it easier for people to jump in. Apprentice125 from Twitch. Yeah, I've learned I have to make deadlines for my costumes before an event. Otherwise, I'll be working to finish the night before. Absolutely. That is a great, great plan. Never make your deadline the morning of the event. That's not a great...
Con crunch is awful. The only thing I wait to do until the morning of is makeup, but that's because I'm so experienced with makeup. I've done so much makeup that I'm really confident that if I look at a picture, I've got it, right? And I usually wake up early knowing that I'm going to need that extra time. But I agree, set deadlines before the convention so that you're not stressing yourself out and so that you can actually enjoy the event and you're not sitting there for half the day going, I can't get this to work.
Yeah, a good rule of thumb is like if this costume's not wearable like the week of the before the con, and you know you choose your day depending on what your schedule is like, be like, I'm not wearing it. So definitely set those boundaries for yourself. It's so easy to get stuck in cosplay and just like go go go. Especially I have ADHD, so I can hyper focus, and I do. I made a costume starting at 10 p.m. and finished it at 5 a.m. and wore it that day to Phoenix. I do not recommend. Do not recommend. So when you're thinking about your branding, you know, a lot of times you want to start with your name. Nowadays, it's okay to like post your real name on the internet. I don't recommend it, but way back when, in 2001, we all just hid behind our like internet handles. So people still call me Jinx that knew me from long, long ago. They don't even know my real name, which is fine. But when you think about what your cosplay name is going to be, there's a lot of ways you can choose it, right? So I'm going to tell you how I picked mine. It's not exciting at all. So when I went to San Diego Comic-Con 97, so it was the second year that it was the first year I went, 96. I was there with my friend, my best friend, and we met this booth babe who was dressed so cute. I cannot even remember what she looked like, but she was dressed as this character named Jinx. And I'm like, that's cool. I like that name. So me and my best friend like fought over it because I don't know, that's just what you do when you're 12. So I got to keep Jinx, and I've just been Jinx cosplay since. No, it's not from League of Legends. It's not a cat. It's not any other thing that you know of. It's just a cool name that I had heard when I was 12. And I've been Jinx ever since. So that's my story.
Thermo has been because the very first material I was curious about was thermoplastics. And then ever since then, I keep choosing materials that require the application of heat to use. So I'm thermo. and I live in a desert. Why not?
So when you think about your name, it doesn't have to be 100% unique. I don't think that's ever going to happen anywhere in the internet. But think about what you are interested in, what you want to represent. You might change it later. I know there's people that have done things like city princess and their name. This is very big in like the princess community. And then they change it later to like cosplay, city cosplay person, because they're like, oh, actually I want to do more than. So you can also keep in mind that sometimes your name might limit you. And you might change it again later. So things to keep in mind. You could do
that's
like,
why I wasn't sure how long I was going to keep cosplay because I was mostly a crafter and charity person. And so now that I've retired from like judging and guesting and doing some other things for events, I'm more like, okay, you know what? I'm just sticking with thermo because thermo fits. I live in the desert. I still use the heat application materials. I'm still doing education on like resins and things that have a lot of thermal effects. And so I'm just going to stay with thermo and it works really well. But that's why you want to make one part of your name very much your identity, because if you do change it, there needs to be something that people can latch onto. If you change your brand too many times, you will lose opportunities.
And Thermo's a lizard. Like I go to her house and it's like 86 degrees. And if you guys don't know, Arizona's like outside it's like 120. And, and 86 sounds like a nice difference, but it's still hot. So
I
go
set
there
it to 76 when you came.
So I'll be like, can you lower the temperature? I'm on my way. So thermal
Yeah, no,
very
I like the heat a lot more. I rolled this up right now because I was trying to make a look, but like I'm wearing a long sleeve. I'm wearing leggings. I'm covered head to toe right now.
I'm
And
like,
it doesn't bother. I'm not even warm at all.
so thermo is definitely very, very appropriate. A couple other comments here. Anthony says, wicked, awesome costume, Thermo. Also, nice shirt. Jinx, thank you. Bulba's my favorite. Baby bug, con crunching has become so normalized that it's concerning. Yes, absolutely. It's such an unhealthy thing to do because so many people disregard their own health when they do it. And then you don't really enjoy the event, right? Because you don't have rest and you're so tired. Baby Bug came from a nickname that one of my honorary moms gave me, so I kept it. That is a great way to also choose your name, is a name that you've already had, like, you know, in your life that has a lot of meaning to you. It doesn't have to be related to your fandoms. Matthew, keep it short, keep it memorable, short, easy to find. I changed mine down the road to encompass photography and keep the name recognizable. Yeah, so a lot of different ways. It does not have to be related to anime or video games or anything like that. You know, I think Matthew's is Insomnimat, which is a really cute like play on words. So insomniatic and mat. So things like that. I know there's a Smart Alex cosplay. Was a friend of ours. That's not a very unique name, but he does very, very appropriate cosplays where he mashes up two cosplays. So very, very smart Alec type. There's gosh, and then there's our friend Amber Bright, right? So she actually uses her name. She's a professional who builds props. So for her that she knew that she was going to make it professional. Yeah, those are Zabrak horns, I believe. Yeah, that Amber made. She had, you know, I think that she started with a different name, but shortly after, when she decided that that's what she wanted to do professionally, she changed it. So for her, she does use her real first name and with props, because that's how she wants to market herself. So that is also another thing. If you know that you have a skill that you might want to monetize later, you can focus on that as well. Yeah. So I'd love to hear more about your names. You can throw them in the chat. There's all sorts of different ways. I've seen people change their names, and sometimes it gets confusing because I'm like, wait, who is this person? I don't remember following them. And then I'm like, oh, it's so-and-so. They just changed their name, which is fine. You know, it happens. Apprentice125. Apprentice has been my handle forever, but it's sort of a common name. And I end up meeting 125 in a lot of places, and people don't always trust accounts with numbers. So that's been a thing I've been trying to figure out. I think now numbers are more acceptable because there's just so many people on
Well,
the
I mean,
internet.
when the internet was new and a baby, people could just choose names and not have to worry about duplicates. Now, with the prevalence of use, yeah, that stigma is starting to go. It still exists, but it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah, I did not get Jinx cosplay on Instagram fast enough. So then I learned that's another thing. So when you do choose your name, Google it, check and see what else it's related to. Sometimes you might be turned off by that name if it's related to something that's very popular and negative, or negative in your eyes. So, and I'm not saying people will Google you, but you know, in case you do, you never know what's going to happen. I don't think Yaya Han thought that she was going to be, you know, making sewing machines and you know, making patterns and stuff. But back then she just used her real name because she was an artist. She actually started out as an artist, not a cosplayer. So as an artist, you know, you usually use your real name, and that just kind of happened. So Google it, check other accounts to see if they have them. And if they do, and you really want that account, then, you know, you're going to have to make changes to it just to get it.
You could also potentially reach out. Some of those people don't actually use their accounts anymore. There have been times where companies have reached out to somebody who's had like a website or an account handle saying, hey, are you still using this? They're like, no. And you can get it transferred to you as well. So there are opportunities like that. There are even some people that are willing to sell their website or URL or domains or other things to you for a nominal fee. So there are opportunities as well. If you really are set on that name and you're not seeing a lot of activity from the account or for the site, you might be able to still acquire it.
And I would say that if there's new apps or new social media and stuff that pop up, like jump on it. Even if you don't use it, like I don't use Threads, but I jumped on it. You know, I made sure to grab it. I think there was some other things that I jumped. What was the Meta?
I don't even use TikTok, and they still have me. And I asked them to delete me like 3 years ago.
Yeah, so Thermo's still on TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I don't use it. I've come into the conundrum where I had to use the Jinx cosplay on Instagram. So I'm kind of torn because I really just wanted to be Jinx Cosplay. That's my website, is jinxcosplay.com. I managed to get that. But now when new like social medias pop up, I'm like, what do I do? Do I do the or do I do not the? But I've been doing the not the. There is a Jinx Cosplay on Instagram, and they haven't used it since like 2014 or something. Ah! So, but anyway, so when you think of your name and your marketing, also think about like how you want to represent yourself. It's okay. It is okay to be an OnlyFans cosplayer. It is okay to be a only store bought cosplayer. It is okay to be, I just do, Overwatch character cosplay. Like it is okay. It's up to you. You cosplay for yourself, not for other people. If they judge you, you can always just block. That's the beauty of the internet. But just be aware, you might want to change that down the line. So, if people start to know you for one thing, you can gradually change it
Move
and
to something
go.
else. Yeah. If you do have questions while we're talking about how to get started, because we've kind of gone over costumes, we've gone over websites, we've gone over social media, we've gone over, we'll kind of move into some other aspects. But if you have questions, please go ahead and keep posting them. The discussion's great right now. And if you're trying to do something specific with cosplay, but you're not sure how to get an edge in, or network or connect, just ask a question. We'll try our best to answer it.
Yeah, Apprentice
So
says,
now that we've kind of gone over like branding and stuff like that and websites and other things, I guess one of the big things that most cosplayers are very interested in is how do I get more involved in our convention community?
mm,
I will say that I didn't get started in the convention community at the large level. I was a volunteer, and I had volunteered before I was even interested in cosplay. I was an not not AC tech, Sam. Wow, AV tech. I'm tired. I was an AV tech, and I helped with updating computers and taking care of mics and leveling out sound and stuff like that for different conventions. And eventually, I got invited to do a workshop at one of the libraries, and then they said, "Hey, would you like to have a table and talk about costuming and charity?" And from there, I joined a charity group, and it just sort of escalated at a faster pace than I anticipated. And suddenly, I was guesting and judging, and I had no idea what was going on. And then I was international, and I'm like, "What's happening? This is too fast for me." So do be mindful of what you can handle. And if a convention or a group of leaders deems you trustworthy or deems you that you're very organized, they're going to be looking for specific traits. So you're never going to know what those traits are unless you ask specific questions for the conventions or communities that you want to get involved in. So make sure you're very clear about what your goals are, what you'd like to do, how you'd like to participate, and then you will most likely find the network or the connections or the groups or communities that you need to participate in to then start leveling up and growing your brand further.
yeah, I actually, when I started in cosplay, there wasn't so much as like a community, especially not in Arizona. I was going to California for all of my cosplay. I actually was working for a website that it was called the Girls Entertainment Network, and that's how I connected with my first cosplay friends. Was that we would meet up at events to do coverage, and then we would plan cosplays together. So that's another great way to do it, is like, find friends in the similar fields or interests, and you can start cosplays together. And then I moved overseas, and that's when like the Phoenix community like expanded while I was gone. I was like, whoa. But when I was overseas, I slowly got back into cosplay, and then I started connecting with actual organizers. So that's how I started getting into it, because I had experience doing some of this stuff. And I started kind of growing in that community. It's so funny because now that I moved back, I still get people like contacting me. I'm like, I moved back like 5 years ago. So when I came back into Arizona, I was so shocked to see how much it grew. I'd met Thermo even before I moved back. Thermo had reached out to me because I went to Phoenix Fan Fusion even when I lived overseas. I would make a trip home and attend. And so like when I came back, I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I made connections, with Thermo and with people that, friends around
Yeah,
and
I
stuff
was
like
writing
that.
for a magazine. I was the managing editor for Geek News magazine, and that's how I made even more connections because I took on little odd jobs here and there. I like to help out. I like to do pro bono work for a lot of different organizations, and that's just how I ended up networking.
Yeah, and you can always start with like applying for panels or finding people that are doing panels that are on topics that you're interested in. That's a way a lot of people get started kind of getting involved in the community. Talk on a topic that is familiar or that you're passionate about, and then you'll get like-minded people to attend, and then that's kind of how the networking starts. We would recommend probably either getting a QR code or really, really cheap business cards to connect. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. QR codes are great too now because they save, they're way cheaper, almost like $0, and more eco-friendly. But I still like having my business cards to hand people. And it's a great way to connect and have people follow you and maybe even make future connections doing other panels or events. Like Thermo said, you can volunteer. You can take one of the days of the con to volunteer. You usually get like a free pass as compensation. And that way you'll meet even more people. And then, the other days you can
I
cosplay and
also
enjoy.
recommend checking your community, like your local library or your girls and boys club or boys and girls clubs, whatever it is. Anyways, or maybe even their local like craft groups and seeing what they need advice on, what they need help with. They seeing if it's something you specialize in, or seeing if you want to learn and just network with those people and get familiar with them. A lot of these too. There's also a lot of costume groups and a lot of costume charities. They're looking for people to go to hospitals to visit children or to help. Like I've gone to St. Mary's dressed up as Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok, and I was accepting phone calls with donations, and I'm on TV going, here I am, the Grandmaster, just taking phone calls. So there's things that you can absolutely do that will also benefit your community, but then allow you to network with more people and build a larger group of support, right? Because cosplay over time can be very taxing if you're trying to go at it completely alone, especially if you're trying to make a sort of like either a larger hobby or semi-career out of it. You really need a lot of support to get there. So that's where you're going to need to learn, to network really well, learn communication skills. I highly recommend, if you've never researched or been familiar with, but check out bias awareness, like unconscious and conscious biases, because that will prevent you potentially from making further connections. So just make sure you overcome those so that those obstacles aren't in your way and you can keep progressing.
And also, like when you're on the internet and you're representing yourself on the internet, be very mindful of how you're going to do that. Sometimes it's easy to engage in drama or toxic conversation.
Accountability is key. If you happened to be a barter or volunteer or producer and you made a mistake, just be accountable for it and move on and take the feedback. That's one thing. When you involve yourself more in the community, when you make yourself more known, and when you become a figure of some kind, you will receive criticism. Even if you're not even if you're not working at a convention, even if you're just a cosplayer appearing in costume, you will receive criticism. So now you have to evaluate, can I handle that? Can I manage that? And can I respond to it appropriately?
And like Apprentice's comment, the prevalence of bots is my main concern, but I think I usually have enough activity for people to know I'm a real being. I mean, if you're active on the internet, and as a cosplayer, you're probably gonna have to show your face. Unless you're like a cosplayer behind a mask. So as long as you're posting genuine photos that don't look like AI, let's not bring AI into the whole cosplay thing. I think that people will take you seriously, as long as you're interacting with people that comment on your stuff and comment on other people's stuff too. Like, that's how you gain connections. It is
Yeah, don't just focus on yourself. If you want to have a really big group of networks, share the other people, share their work, kind of collaborate with one another, lift each other up. This cosplay is kind of hitting this weird juncture that a lot of different things in different countries are, where it's at this apex, right? And it's either going to become really, really toxic, or it's going to become really, really collaborative and amazing. If you want to encourage that camaraderie, you're just going to have to kind of really stick to your guns and collaborate and work hard and make it equitable for people, make it to where you're accepting people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and able or disabled alike into your purview, and not isolating yourself in one specific perspective.
Yeah, I definitely use my Instagram feed as inspiration. So I've recently just pared down because I have two Instagrams. I have a personal one and I have a cosplay one, and I was like, why are these so mixed up? So now on my cosplay one, I'm seeing way more creators, and it's so cool to see people on there. I like to share cosplays that I like. I like to
I found
comment
a
on cosplays
cosplay
that I like.
cat. This cat's like so much more fashionable than I am, and I'm jealous.
Well, they're inspiration. You're envious of their skill. So show your like appreciation for other people's work, because you're gonna want to feel that too. A lot of times people will scroll right, and you just like, oh, that's cool. But actually interact, and also for apprentice, that'll help like your accounts be like less bot like.
Yeah, even if
So
you're not sure what to say, like an emoji or a GIF or something that's giving them like support, because sometimes I'm really tired at the end of my workday. My brain is frazzled out. I work in a very high risk, high reward job, and I sit there and I'm scrolling. And I'm like, I want to interact, but my brain's like, I don't know what to say. So I just post emojis or GIFs to show like, hey, I'm acknowledging your presence here, but my brain is dead.
also, you can share it. Like I love to share really cool cosplays to my stories. It's a great way to help support your fellow cosplayers, get views and stuff. Um, and just appreciation. There was a trend at one point where it was like, oh, share two other cosplayers that did the same cosplay as you did. And this is a huge thing in cosplay, especially when there's a huge disparity between like skill levels, where the person with the lower skill level will feel discouraged from cosplaying that character now because, oh, Yaya did it. But that has nothing to do with what your skill level or your interests are. Nobody owns one character or
Don't seek
cosplay.
validation in others. Seek validation only within yourself. If you seek validation from others, you will constantly be put down. You will constantly fall off of the pedestal that people are trying to lift you on, because that validation will get disrupted. Someone will come along that wants to be very rude or mean to you, or someone will come along that refuses to be accountable for their actions, and it will knock you down a notch. Instead, if you're only seeking validation in yourself, even if you encounter those people, it will still hurt, but it's not going to really disrupt much of what you're pursuing. You could just keep going forward.
And it is 100% okay to remake cosplays, when you've gotten more skill
Yeah.
or more experience.
Just
Yeah.
use like I loved my thing Krios, but I gotta tell you, I made it at a time when I thought I had skills, but now that it's so many years later, I'm like, I could do so much better. So I'm actually looking at revisiting that costume in 2025 and redoing my thing Krios, and then finally making the Turian that I've wanted to do for years, but I didn't think I could do it, right? And so I'm finally challenging myself, going, you know what? Even if it doesn't come out perfect, I remember the first time I made Thane, it didn't come out perfect, but now I know so much more. I bet with enough planning, I can make this happen. If it's something that you're passionate about and it makes you super happy, just pursue it and forget what other people are saying, right? Just go for that happiness.
Yeah, Kevin says on Facebook, you two are doing wonderful things. Thank you. Thank you so much. We do this for you guys. Like, we want to encourage, positive cosplay experiences. There are people that get burnt out, or they get pushed out of the community because they kind of started the wrong way, or they connected with the wrong people. So we want to make sure that it's enjoyable. Like, when cosplay doesn't become enjoyable for us, we take a break.
Which
We
is
don't
what
want
I've
to.
done. I mean, I stepped back. That's why I'm not judging or guessing anymore. I was running into so much toxicity. I was running into so many people who weren't being accountable for their actions. And I'm one of those people, when I see verbal abuse, when I see people being backburnering things that should be a priority, I get angry and I get defensive. And I realized, you know what? They're not going to listen because it's not a priority, because this isn't important. What's important is their how they look, and not the people they're hurting. So I'm stepping back from this because I realize I can't enact change because people won't listen. So I'm just going to go back to the charity groups and to like streaming and the places where I feel like maybe I can push a message and just say, hey, love yourself, love your costumes, and just go out there, style, design, craft, have fun. And the aspect of costume play, like it is supposed to be play, so it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a hobby, and you can do whatever you want within that hobby. If competing does, you enjoy it, keep doing that. But once you start feeling like it's work, or it's just more stress than it is, or you're just having more negative reactions, then rethink it. I don't want to give up cosplay. Like, I don't want to do anything that makes me feel like giving up cosplay. So, I've also taken a step back from doing a lot of events, and I'm actually going back into like focusing on the cosplay groups I'm a part of, because I did that last year and I realized how fun it was to, be a part of a group again, and helping support them with the knowledge that I have. Right. So that's kind of where I'm taking a break. I took a break for life changes too. So anytime that you have any big life changes, like, you need to take a step back from the things that will take up your time if you need to focus on, home, health, whatever. Apprentice says, still working on networking thing, but I learned just showing up, being nice, and interacting a little bit builds up. and people end up remembering you. Absolutely. So it's just, it's the golden rule, isn't it? It's like treat others as you want them to treat you,
I
you
mean,
know?
everything I've been to, I didn't ask to go. Someone reached out to me because someone, a friend of someone or someone of someone else who worked for somewhere else said, "Hey, this person's on time, shows up, doesn't like cause drama, just makes things happen, is defensive of people who are being mistreated. I recommend them." So I kept getting recommendations, and I've had to message a few of those people, go like, "I really appreciate this, but I just mentally can't handle the pressure of these things anymore." And I'm it was never cosplay was never meant to be like a professional or career thing for me, because my day job's already enough stress, and I love my day job, don't get me wrong, but it's already enough stress. And so it's okay too to be like, "Hey, I really appreciate this opportunity, but this is where I'd like to go. However, here's a list of people that I know would be totally interested in what you're trying to offer." So don't be afraid to, pop up other people too.
And don't be afraid to try it. Like, I have only ever guested once. I don't know. People are like, "How have you not guested more?" I don't know, because I don't chase it. I'm not like big on it. But I
You're
guested at
more of
Phoenix.
a like, we like to wander. We like to interact with people. We like to interview people. We like to do
Yeah,
panels. We like to just be network.
yeah. So I guessed it at Phoenix Fan Fusion, and it was a great experience. But I realized that I felt so like that I had to be in one place, and I couldn't also because I was also hosting the masquerade and I was doing panels, and so I actually was only at my booth like half the time. But I noticed that I loved doing that more. People know me more for having hosted the masquerade than being a guest. And I feel like that's where my time is better spent, my experience is better spent. So you can try something for once, and then if it's not a thing you want to keep doing, just stop doing it. Don't feel obligated to continue. I do judge cosplay contests, but I prefer to be like the host or something like that. I'll do it if I feel like it's a good cause and it's like beneficial to me as well to like judge or something. So you really need to like weigh your options. Sometimes you're like, I'm gonna take every opportunity
It's like
to like
the Marie Kondo thing. What sparks joy?
what brings you to exactly, because when especially when people are like, oh, you should monetize your cosplay, like very rarely is that
Well, and
successful.
then there's tax implications with that people are not actually considering. I know a couple people who were monetizing their cosplay and didn't realize they had to pay taxes on that because they hit a certain threshold, and so it can become
It
a
is
lot of
low. It's like
stress.
six
It
hundred
can become so
bucks
much
yeah,
stress, yeah.
in the United States. We're saying in the United States it's pretty
Yeah, I
low.
mean, I don't know how it is in other countries. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you start monetizing things, it just and people, I've seen people do this, like they'll start cosplaying and like weeks later they're like, I'm gonna start commissions, and then they burn out. So it sounds like a great idea, and people
I've
are
done
like, you could make so
commissions.
much money.
I will say with commissions, be careful what you accept. There's some commissions that I prefer leather and stretch fabric. And there's only been twice that I've accepted commissions that didn't have those. And those were the most difficult commissions I ever did because they were materials I hated, right? So if
Mm.
I accept commissions now, it's only with materials that I know I'm personally comfortable with working with. And it's a lot of the times to me going, "Hey, what look are you specifically going for? Okay, here are the three levels. This is if I thrift and upcycle and change things. This is if I half thrift and half purchase. And this is if I make from whole," because you want to have those price options. If you're not willing to do any of that, just be forewarned that commissions will become very difficult.
Yeah,
And then
I
also the follow-up your business, like, it's so hard.
I never want to do commissions. I have done for very close friends, but I will never do
I
them
I
because
still you still owe me a vault suit, but I still owe you
oh no,
money, so
that's not a commission. That's like I'm doing it for a friend. That's fine.
that's true.
But like
I'm like, "Okay, what do you need? Alright, I'm gonna work on this, you work on that, we'll just trade
yeah,
services because there's some things that she
that's
hates
fine.
doing that I love doing, so, like, that's another thing too. If you start doing group cosplays and you all have different skills, it's nice to be able to trade off those things because we did that with our evolutions group. We're like, "Well, I prefer this and I prefer that," and we all kind of helped each other with different skills.
Absolutely. So we are coming to the end. Whoa. So if you are just joining us or you don't know the changes, we don't stream every Sunday anymore. We have a schedule, so they're always updated on our Facebook. Our
Yeah, so
next
our
stream,
next stream, I can pull it up. So our next stream is gonna be on September 20th at 7 p.m. and it is going, oh wait, hang on. Yeah, September 20th at 7 p.m. and it's going to be a Friday, I believe, and that will be our gaming stream. And then the following, I think, what, let me see here. The following Tuesday on the 24th, we're going to be doing a craft stream at 7 p.m.
Yeah, and then our next event for that Thermo and I are attending, representing the New Arizona Republic, their Fallout group. We're going to be in YumaCon. So Yuma is about what 2.5, 3 hours south of Phoenix in
Yeah, let
Arizona.
me open up YumaCon's
So we
page
are
so I
going
can show you.
representing the New Arizona Republic. We'll have a whole Fallout set up. We'll be there the whole weekend. I think it's 2 days. Yeah, the 5th and the 6th of October. So definitely come by and see us if you're there. It's going to be a cool little chill event. Looks like yeah, tickets are super cheap. So yeah, if you're in the area or you want to escape Phoenix for a bit, check it out, YumaCon. For the New Arizona Republic, we'll be there. And
Yep.
then, of course, once October hits, it's like after that, it's like ooh, 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 ooh. So,
Yeah, so if you're
Con-
not aware, Costalk Live is a proud partner with UwuCon, and we are working with them this year to help with creating a really cool display for the cosplay section this year, panels and programs, and we're trying to make it a lot more interactive. Uwu is one of those events that they take a lot of lessons learned and they move with them and they experiment. So this year's another experiment to see
year
if
three.
the new code of conduct and stuff, if it's different, right? To see like, okay, well, we learned this last year. All right, let's make some code of conduct changes. Let's make some training changes. Let's make some permission like role changes, and let's see if we delegate more, will this work out? So we are excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, so UwuCon is November 1st through the 3rd in Scottsdale, Westworld. So if you haven't
In the
got
North
tickets, check
Hall.
it out. Yeah. And
Yep.
then, yeah, we got to wrap it up here. So I'm Jinx Cosplay. My website is jinxcosplay.com, and I'm on most socials as at the Jinx Cosplay.
And I'm Thermo, and I still have thermocosplay.com up, but that will be changing soon. I'm switching back to Instructables because I love Instructables. And honestly, I prefer writing tutorials over maintaining an entire website, which is really annoying.
Yeah, apprentices, thanks for the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in and interacting with us. And again, like check our next stream on our Facebook calendar, and we will see
We're
you
on
next
Facebook,
time.
YouTube, and Twitch. So you'll find us all
Yeah,
three
and
places.
we do have an Instagram account, so we don't stream on it though.
Yeah, just the Instagram streaming has not been easy for me. So
Yeah.
it's problematic. All right,
So we'll see you
everybody,
guys
have
next
a
time.
good weekend, and we will see you next week.